Chapter 10, Building Digitally Savvy Supply Chain Leadership. Quote, "Digital is never done," unquote. Caroline Dagas, Chief Procurement Officer, Nordstrom. Quote, "In war, only the simple succeeds," unquote. Paul von Hindenburg, President of Germany's Weimar Republic. You can build or buy all the technology you want and mandate all the cybersecurity and digital tool trainings in the world. But unless you have digitally savvy leaders, efforts to secure your supply chain and make it more resilient will fall flat. The leadership changes include challenging narratives we have about users and how we embrace boosting adoption of digital tools. Conversely, most business leaders don't truly understand the power and impact of digital. If they did, they would treat it as the existential threat and growth opportunity that it is. Organizations' traditional ways of working are limited by historical precedent, which on the surface isn't bad. If it's working, keep doing it. However, it becomes problematic when you are trying to change the enterprise and initiate a digital-first way of operating. And then there are some people who lack the motivation to evolve. People don't like change because it adds more work for them in the short term. Oftentimes, they either don't understand what an unconstrained future could look like, or they simply recognize that the broader organizational culture rejects meaningful change. It's easy to fight change. It's easy to come up with an outlier excuse of why something won't work. Given this organizational inertia, most companies don't consider the full scope of op model changes. The top-down approach usually fails because the goal is to change the hearts and minds. For example, nearly every large company has gaggles of data scientists. But where do they sit? In the business, in a center of excellence, or both? How does the enterprise effectively deploy these resources? All too often, it's a mishmash of initiatives and suboptimal in practice. In a digital world where the business is empowered to do what it needs and possesses the proper skills, then this whole discussion will be moot. In other words, we need to bring the business to the data science. The digital upskilling of people is often distilled down to the minimum effort possible, taking some learning management courses. Digital transformations are often big and complicated, so there are great opportunities for poor performers to hide. Even worse, they can be active blockers to success. Or you will see employees adopt the language du jour to protect themselves. For instance, the person who builds reports is now a data scientist, which is nonsense. The scope is a huge issue as well. Often digital transformations are too big to manage and are focused on activity, not productivity. A big digital transformation is counterfactual to a digital way of working. A digital way of working would be agile, whereby activity is managed in a nimble way to increase success and limit risk. So why is the transformation itself a complicated and monolithic waterfall that's almost guaranteed to lead to failure? I blame executive desires for a big bang and consultants for perpetuating this. Most digital transformations are too reliant on storytelling and promoting. The why is usually well articulated, but the what and how are always missing, especially the how. Hence the need for a transformation true-up. See the transformation true-up in Chapter 1, the vaccine story. Disrupting the deficit perspective. I love patterns. There's something so gratifying about studying a particular topic and over time discovering new patterns. Sometimes they are obvious, such as sitting through a steady stream of technology startup pitches and recognizing the buzzwords everyone is slinging around like a bartender serving happy hour beers. Other patterns emerge slowly and are more pernicious. As I started traveling again after the pandemic, I noticed significantly more digital competency and maturity than before it. That alone wasn't terribly surprising. However, when I started to hear nearly every analyst, consultant, startup solution provider talk about how broken procurement was, it gave me pause. Here's some of what I heard about procurement. 1. Has no real control over the category, is remote from every purchase, and has no analytics or insights to affect change or improvements. 2. Has zero ability to influence sustainability objectives, manage demand or supply chain risk, or deliver basic category management. 3. Continues to run many activities manually using traditional technology. 4. Can't answer business questions timely. 5. Team collaboration and audit trail are poor. 6. Has no visibility into spend. 7. Is backward-looking reporting. There's no forecasting. 8. Struggles to be influential in the business. And regarding CPOs, 1. Are often unable to learn from past issues to effectively plan, implement, or execute any lessons learned holistically to prevent future disruptions. 2. Are unable to devise long-term strategies for dealing with a disruptive world and think beyond procurement to envision products and innovations that can be manufactured despite disruption. While many of these statements may be partly true, they are mostly platitudes meant to sell something. They've become shorthand for saying that the procurement organization has problem X and the supplier has solution Y. All we have to do is match the two and the problem will be magically solved. But they are lies we keep repeating until that's all we can see in the professional mirror. Getting supply chain leaders out of the idiot box. One of my favorite military historians is Dr. Michael Nyberg, a professor at the U.S. Army War College and author of a number of World War I monographs. He spends a lot of time advocating change in how World War I is taught. One of the mistakes he encourages us to avoid is putting the people of 1914 into what he calls the idiot box. This is, quote, our instinctive response to see the people of that fateful year as uncommonly stupid or bloodthirsty, providing us comfort that we are way too smart or too sophisticated to ever make the mistakes they made, unquote. While the stakes are not nearly the same, it feels like analysts, consultants, and solution providers and the like have put the collective supply chain profession in the idiot box. As evidenced by the examples above, supply chain professionals are cast as incompetent and unfit to do their jobs. Reading these quotes independently would lead someone to conclude that supply chain professionals sit around eating sprinkled donuts and working on their fantasy football teams. But the reality is that many of these criticisms result from supply chain design rather than individual incompetence. Over the years, I have been critical of supply chain organizations for many of these same themes, especially regarding digital decisions. And surely there are organizations that still struggle with these issues. However, is it fair or even accurate to cast these blanket assertions? Coming off a series of major global disruptions over the last few years for which supply chain professionals bore the brunt and stepped up to the challenge, it is clear that these statements don't hold up to scrutiny. The real issue with these statements is that they hold the profession back. The profession can't advance if we take such a deficit view. It becomes self-reinforcing fratricide. It's not that everything has to be awesome or perfect, but we have to be able to effectively credit progress and advancement. More to the point, we need to look for positive trends, even if it means we can't sell yesterday's solutions, offerings, or technologies. Principles of digital leadership. The fundamental truth of the digital age is that leaders need to understand how digital tools work. It's not that leaders don't have a million other concerns and responsibilities, but not understanding digital tools, data, and analytics can have catastrophic effects. Look how easily Chelsea Manning and Edward Snowden simply transferred gigabytes of incriminating data without the knowledge of any supervisor or leader. Manning, an Army intelligence analyst with access to highly classified information, burned 750,000 files onto DVDs, labeled them as Lady Gaga, Taylor Swift, and other musicians, and walked out of secure intelligence facilities and right out of Afghanistan unchallenged. This is a staggering breach considering that military intelligence facilities are supposed to be the most secure. To effectively manage our third parties digitally, we must ask ourselves the following questions. 1. Is it too complicated? Most technology fails because it's too complicated. Users rarely use hard-to-navigate or hard-to-understand technology. This is especially true for suppliers. 2. Is it adaptable? We should be making it easy and self-service for suppliers to integrate into our systems, and we should offer them help should they need it. If it takes 6 weeks to integrate a single supplier into our systems, we're doing something extraordinarily wrong. 3. Am I properly incentivizing my third parties to participate? Is there a benefit to the third party? For example, perhaps you offer better payment terms to suppliers who use the system. If there's a benefit, highlight it. If not, just stop the initiative. Here are some practical principles that should guide digital initiatives. Feel free to incorporate some or all of them. 1. Automate, automate, automate. And if you can't automate it, make it self-service. 2. Start with smaller projects that deliver big value. While this sounds exceedingly basic, fixing a customer visibility issue, a production downtime issue, or an employee onboarding issue will create 10 times the goodwill of any big bang project. 3. It's all about the common core platform. Build on an advanced stack like AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud Platform with a strong data foundation. Make use of the libraries provided by the cloud provider to build bespoke solutions and augment those with the relevant point solutions. 4. It's all about multi-enterprise collaboration. The greatest risks come from your third parties. The greatest ESG opportunities come from your third parties. The most inefficient parts of your supply chain come from your third parties. The solution to all three is to get good at multi-party data exchange. 5. Break artificial organizational constructs. The biggest enterprise needs, user experience, risk, ESG, innovation, and so on, don't fit into silos anymore. For example, think about customer experience. They want a quick and easy way to purchase, receive, and return their item, all with status updates and provenance information. That objective alone crosses a bunch of different systems, sales, ERP, third-party logistics, and countless others. But the customer doesn't care. 6. Digital is something you do. You don't learn digital from a learning management system. These systems are a sign of digital immaturity, the quintessential check-the-box exercise. You need the motivation to learn, experiment, and ask for help. Anyone can learn anything on the internet if they have the motivation and are willing to put in the time. 7. It all gets back to make versus buy. In a world with hundreds of thousands of new technology companies, it's important to understand when to buy and customize or build internally. Finding the balance here is crucial because it's easy to get pulled in different directions. 8. Fund digital projects like a venture capitalist. Project funding should be contingent on progress like VCs do. 9. Adopt a product and platform approach. Move from product managers, cat herders and timekeepers, to product managers, value orchestrators, or CEO of the product. Think product lifecycle, design, development, deployment, maintenance, improvements. This includes integration to other systems and leveraging data into and out of the product. Product managers must always center the user. Whatever you build should benefit the user. 10. Separate business as usual from innovation. This must be a hard line, otherwise people will get drawn into the day-to-day firefighting and innovation will slip. 11. The CIO is either in the boat or out of the boat. If they're in the boat, they must be rowing. If they aren't, then paddle away. The CIO must be an evangelist and a cheerleader. Watch-outs and fixes. 1. Broken agile. Most companies have corporatized agile, meaning they have bastardized it to use agile language on old ways of working. A sprint is 4 weeks max. If you're talking about sprints in more than that, then you're doing agile wrong. 2. Intentionality. Don't throw out random digital solutions. If users can't see how it'll land, they won't engage. 3. Stand up a product management function. It's important to have product managers who understand each solution's short and long-term success. They must have clear KPIs that measure customer usage and satisfaction. 4. Clearly define success for every function. What passes for digital supply chain transformation success is embarrassing. Set a clear goal so it's easy to tell if you're achieving it. 5. Blowing things up is easy. It's the rebuilding that's hard. Avoid wholesale ripping out of digital systems as this creates unnecessary drama. Adopt a model of layering on top of existing solution gaps and phasing out over time. 6. Scaling is a struggle. Everyone gets stuck in the test and learn phase. That's the easy and fun part. The implementation is hard. Leaders have to lead when things get messy. You need to get your hands dirty as solutions roll out. 7. There's no such thing as quote-unquote best-in-class process. Today's systems need to be intelligent. That means you no longer need to hard-code decision tree logic into the processes. Instead, entire processes can be replaced by an interactive bot that guides, directs, and influences based on user metadata and input, as ChatGPT is doing. 8. It's no longer business as usual. Business is dynamic and changing. Our suppliers become our competitors. Our competitors become frenemies. 9. Digital complexity is IT's problem. We need simplicity for the user experience at the expense of IT. 10. Stop the waiting game. If you're waiting for a tech provider to deliver features in a future release, you'll likely be waiting a very long time. 11. Find, build, and sustain the translators. A business will succeed based on its ability to balance technological capabilities and business needs. So you need people who can translate and bridge the knowledge gap. 12. If you criticize it, you fix it. The way to deal with skeptics of process design is to ask them to do the task at hand and see how much they enjoy it. How leaders infuse digital to the organization. 1. Motivate your employees to operate digitally. Asking employees to cut and paste information is a clear communication that you do not value them. Asking employees to use an archaic web-based tool that was designed in the early 2000s is a clear communication you do not value them. It is your choice to do this, but you can't espouse moving to digital if your actions don't match. 2. Lead by example. Make sure you use the same tools as your employees, because if you are frustrated, they are too. If you pioneer the use of new tools or techniques, then people will follow. Fear of missing out is real in digital adoption. 3. Get your current people comfortable with digital. There are two sides to this issue. On one hand, you need to convey that everyone has an opportunity to make the journey, and if they don't, tell them. On the other, if they don't make the changes and progress in their learning, then you have to move on. It's unfair to let people flail in a digital world. These people will impede progress. 4. Hire different profiles. The entirety of human knowledge, at least parts of it, is at our fingertips. We have tools that code applications, write essays, and solve mathematical or engineering problems. Therefore, your team needs to have a different set of profiles and experiences. This is where diversity is finally going to have its moment, because an eclectic mix of profiles will harness the power of digital way better than 1,000 engineers from an engineering school or 1,000 MBAs from a business school. 5. Create open-ended initiatives. Give people projects that engage the brain, stimulate creativity, and require critical thinking skills. For example, have employees build systems, physical and digital, then attack them, reimagine the constraints to designs, or simply challenge the business-as-usual status quo. Hacking supply chain leadership. 5 takeaways. 1. Leaders need to be digitally savvy. 2. Stop putting supply chain leaders in the idiot box. 3. Ask yourself hard questions about your approach to digital. 4. Everyone makes the same mistakes. Learn from them. 5. Lead by example. Infuse digital principles top down.